Good afternoon. It's Penny from FCSS, back as promised with another Caregiver Café to talk about self-regulation and modeling that. So over the past few weeks, I've talked some about behavior management and accepting big emotions and resilience and lots of different topics. And I get lots of questions from parents about behavior modification and how do we get children to behave differently. And so I thought it was a good idea to talk about our own self-regulation and talk about that in a practical way. So it's easy for me to sit behind the camera here and say be calm. However, achieving that state of calm can be difficult. Our brains function in a way that makes it difficult. So today, I'd like to chat a little bit about what's going on in your brain, about the stress response, about how to learn how to recognize when that's happening, and what to do to help yourself calm down, and then talk a little bit about what that modeling can do for your children. So what is the stress response? I'm sure everyone probably has heard about, fight, flight, or freeze. So that's your brain's natural mechanism, right, to protect you. It's there for emergencies. It's there to provide your body, your physical body, with the means to either fight, run away, or freeze. So what typically happens is your blood pressure rises and your heart rate increases, and your brain is signaling your body to send blood to your extremities so that you can fight or run. And what that does is it shuts down the part of your brain that is rational and thinking. So there's a bit of a disconnect there between the emotional and the thinking part of your brains. So you want to be able to make quick decisions, but it doesn't allow you to really think things through. So that's what happens, and that's helpful in emergencies, right? From the beginning of time. If you saw a tiger, you needed to run. However, the brain isn't so good at discerning between real threats and perceived threats. So there's all sorts of ideas in our brains and perceptions about what a threat is. And so sometimes that's not helpful, and particularly in parenting, because parenting can be stressful at times. There's all kinds of situations where your brain says this is dangerous when really it's not dangerous. So when it comes to responding to your child, and usually that's in a state when they are dysregulated, the stress response is not very helpful. In fact, it often makes the situation worse. So when your child is stressed and dysregulated, so let's say tantruming, and your reaction is to also become stressed and tip over into the stress response. Some parents you may react with loud voice, aggression, shaming, hitting, all those things that can happen when we're dysregulated, which can scare your child more, and that increases their own stress response, which gets us into that escalation trap. So they're upset, you're upset, they get more upset, you get more upset, and that's a very, very common parenting trap, escalating. And it just kind of spirals out of control. And things happen that you'll later regret, right? So you can learn, we all can learn, it's a lifelong process for children, adults, how to respond differently. So when you think about your own stress responses as we go through here, think about some of the things that happen in your family that can trigger this for you. And if you're watching live and you feel like commenting or have any questions, please do so. So how can you learn to notice your stress response and then help yourself calm down? That's what I'm going to chat a little bit about here now, is one of the ways we can help ourselves regulate is to recognize when we start drifting towards that stress response. So when you think about your own body and your own stress response, what are some of those early signs that things might be happening when you think about your physical body? So do you feel your heart pounding? Do you feel your muscles clenching? Do you feel your breath getting shallow and rapid? Interesting enough, even talking about it here, I can almost feel that starting to happen in my body. So what does your voice get like when you're stressed? Does it get loud? Does it get high pitched? Do you speak quickly? Do you tend to speak more harshly? I know that when I get irritated, that's, I can notice that in my voice and my words. And so now, I'd like you to take a deep breath and think about, what does your body feel like when it's calm? So, do you have a normal heart rate? Do you feel relaxed? Are you breathing, normally or slowly? Is your voice calm and your tone pleasant? So that's the first step for managing your stress response, is noticing when it's starting to happen. So my own experience is around sibling conflict. So when I can hear my children fighting and I can hear it escalating, I can start to notice those things in myself. I start to feel clenched, and I start to feel irritated, and my heart rate increases. And so what do we do? So what do you do? Let's say it isn't a parenting situation. In a normal situation at work, what do you do to help yourself calm down? What are some ways that work for you? Because this is going to be individual for everybody, right? So how do we self-regulate? So as we go through here, think about things that work for you. So how do we get our brains back to reconnecting, thinking and feeling back together? So what do you do when you're stressed? So taking some time to calm yourself down, so that we can then respond to our child. So we talked earlier, I mentioned, time apart. So getting your child to a safe space, getting yourself to a quiet space. So it's really important to stop what you're doing. So one of the things I hear from a lot of parents and from my own experience is, when things are going wrong, we want to rush in and teach the lesson, right? This behavior isn't right. We need to have a teachable moment here about the behavior. And yes, it's important to step in and stop a behavior that is not acceptable. And that's where we stop what we're doing. We get the children to a safe place, and everything stops. So the teachable moment for the behavior comes later. First, we're going to self-regulate, because that's the beauty and the gem of the teachable moment. The teachable moment here is about self-regulation, and that's the modeling component, right? So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So back to the practical things. Okay. So what can you do to calm your stress response before it's tipped over? So myself, I like to use self-talk. Things like, not my circus, not my monkeys, which basically means their feelings are their own. Their conflict is their own. I don't need to take on their conflict. And if I can remain neutral, I can remain calm. So maybe you use visualization. Some suggestions have been imagining the gear shift of a car, going from overdrive down the gears to neutral. Maybe you do deep breathing. Maybe you count backwards from 10. Maybe you stretch out your tense muscles. You really have to find what works for you, play around with it, try different things. And it's also important to remind yourself, and I've talked before about a perspective shift of, your children aren't being bad. They aren't intentionally trying to manipulate you, thinking about them having a hard time as opposed to giving you a hard time. And also remembering that they're going to be watching you. And what you do in this moment, like I said, is the teachable moment as far as modeling how to calm yourself down and how to regulate yourself. So you take that time. The lessons can wait. You know, you want to make sure everyone's safe, physically safe, and you want to take the time to calm. And then, when you're calm, you can rejoin. Everybody can rejoin. You can then help the child to regulate. You're in a place where you can help them regulate. And then together, you can solve the problem of the behavior. So, then, right? So, the behavior is important. The self-regulation key piece is that piece. So, yeah. And they learn by watching you, right? What you do, this is how they learn to regulate eventually, right? Which takes many years. You help them learn by doing it yourself. You get calm, you help your child get calm. Then we work together on problem solving. So I guess the takeaway here is sort of the initial work on recognizing how our bodies respond or how our minds respond. Learning to calm that, notice it, calm it, model that to our children, and then move on to working through the problem together from a place of calm. And all of the strategies I talk about through Triple P and through anything, this is kind of the beginning component, is learning how to do this not only for your children but for yourself in all relationships. Yeah. So if you have any thoughts, questions, or ideas, please feel free to comment or send me an email. And a lot of this information I got from Healthy Parents, HealthyChildren.ca from the Alberta Health Services website. So if you want more information, there's lots of great resources on that, as well as our webpage, www.fcss.ca. So thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.